change spark plugs.
All right, we're live. 2, 1.
Parental guidance is suggested.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Weirdos Assemble. Episode, I think I said we're on 14 now?
14.
Somewhere in there? Yeah, 14? Minus the missing episode that decided to vanish into the ether.
Number 9. Rest in peace.
That was a great episode.
I know.
Nobody will ever believe us that we
Man.
had Whiskey Chaser and Parker the Coyote on in an episode.
That
Didn't
was
actually
just
happen, right?
that was
Yeah.
such a funny fucking night.
And none of us remember it.
No.
So, I'm joined tonight by Loose Juice, Nothing at Random, and he's alive. We finally found him somewhere in the darkness. We got Circus Bear back.
I need to go back to the darkness. I miss it.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
How you guys been?
Dude, I've been fine. We're more worried about you.
Dude, it's when it rains, it pours, right? Like I always tell people, if it wasn't for bad luck, I would have no luck at all. So yeah, I told you guys before on Discord, my ankle did not heal correctly after the accident, so I get to go in for another surgery, and they're gonna refracture the ankle and clean all the scar tissue off the bone, I guess, and then screw everything back together. So, oh boy, and I'm trying to get it done as soon as possible. So I went into my doctor to do like a pre-surgery check, right? And they do like an EKG, take your blood pressure and all that. And they're like, hey man, your blood pressure is really low and your EKG has some funky shit going on. And they're like, well, but we see you take this certain kind of medicine. And I'm like, yeah, it's like an anxiety medicine. They said, yeah, but it's also for blood pressure. So that's probably what's causing all of this. And I have to wait like 2 more weeks to get another EKG to get cleared for surgery. So it's just dragging on further and further. And I'm just imagining more of my summer going by without me walking. It's a bummer.
We're gonna pitch together. I start another GoFundMe just to get you a trike. That way you can still ride.
Now the question
Man,
is, are we-
I gotta be bad off before I am like.
No, see, we do it the non-traditional way. Instead of getting you a trike, like a freewheeler or a tri-glide, we do the opposite and get you like a Riker. So it
No,
looks a
we're gonna
little
get him
more
another
sporty
Goldwing.
and
We're
Batman-y.
just gonna put training wheels on it.
Yeah. Have you seen the landing gear wheels that they make for those?
Yeah.
For like old people that can't hold their bikes up?
I actually, the first time I saw those was in person.
Really?
I saw one. Anyone familiar with Ohio, down in Thornville, I was leaving a gas station and I saw one go by, and he came up to a stop
Ohio's
sign.
not real.
I promise it is. It's mostly cornfield and farming, but there's like a small area, like proportionately, that isn't, and that's Columbus and Cincinnati. Pretty much everything else is just hills and cornfields.
I think Dayton would probably want to have a word with you, but otherwise I agree.
Nah.
I have family
don't-
from Dayton. It
We
still
don't care
doesn't
about
exist.
Dayton. Yeah, we don't care about Dayton.
So we're still
Anywho.
running on the low side for how many people we have coming to
Yeah.
the group
Well,
again.
Mike is gonna be here. I know.
Mike's intimidating the daughter's boyfriend.
Yes, he's taking him
True.
out to dinner. So he's on like I would assume a double
A
date.
double date.
Oh,
But I wouldn't be surprised.
Bro,
if
they're the least intimidating people I've ever met, though. Like, I'm sure Mike might have it in him. Diana doesn't have it. She's not the intimidator.
I mean,
She's
from what Mike says, Diana is the scary.
No. uh,
No, I could see
maybe
that.
at his goofy ass.
behind every great man is a wife that knows how to terrify him. Was that what you're saying?
Exactly.
No, behind every great man, there's a wife that's saying you fuck up, and I swear to God, you won't wake up the next morning.
I'm actually pretty sure I've heard that.
Yeah, unfortunately.
You will be missing pieces, and
Yeah.
it's not the pieces you expect.
Okay, I know I've been gone for a few weeks, but am I the only one hearing like music playing in the background?
Yeah, we have.
I don't
music
hear
on.
anything.
No.
Oh,
You
Okay,
lying
I hear it.
bastards!
Goon
It's a
started
new,
doing that.
a new thing happening.
Yeah, Goon started doing that. I don't think last episode, but the episode before.
It's been a few episodes.
Yeah, but
I like it.
it's been a couple.
This would just put Rowdy to sleep faster, wouldn't it?
Shh, you're giving away my secrets.
Where is he?
I think
He's not coming on tonight.
He's dealing with doggy issues, I
I was
think.
gonna say he was a maybe.
Beak says that we're all growing some mean beards, except Goon. I think we are. Mine's getting a little better. Not much, but
Mine looks like I glued pubes in my face, but
Yeah, mine looks like absolute ass at all times. So
I haven't shaved in like 12 hours. It's okay.
oh, speaking of ass,
He finally figured out he likes eating it.
I
From
don't
the
know yet.
back.
I haven't had the chance.
it's standard, bro.
No, I saw my brother today, and we were talking, and he brought up meeting the cult again, and he's like, he's like, whenever you go next, I want to go with you. I'm like, I'm going next month, and he's like, and he just looked at me. He's like, don't they have 2 a year? I'm like, yeah, next month in October. And he just looked at me. He's like, they need to pick a better time to have that shit. I'm like, it's in Florida, dude. If they have it in the middle of summer, we're all gonna die.
It would be hell for us northern folk, I should say.
And like us, it's not that bad writing down. He's like, yeah, other than the fact you're writing in 30 degrees. I just looked at him. I'm like, Mr. Badass RC member, 30 degrees shouldn't be anything because your club hosts icy butt rides. Just nut up and do it. But on top of that, I don't know if he wants to go to see why I'm so infatuated with the event, or if he just wants to go on a long ride with me to try to give me shit.
either way, you got a road companion.
Yeah.
yeah.
At that point, I think I'd rather ride alone. But
Aaron Bruiser says that's not how diving works.
Yeah. Just saw that. I was trying to put it together.
Well, see, instead of like diving in the ocean where the water's clear and pretty and blue, it's like going in a
all
pond in
murky.
somebody's backyard. Ohio's landlocked. We have plenty of ponds. We don't have any ocean.
You got
Some people
Lake
have to
Erie.
crawl down into sewage tanks.
Part of Ohio. Yeah.
People do that as a job. That's true. I will never do that.
They probably make righteous bucks, man. Don't scoff at it.
Oh no, they do.
Oh no, I'm not. I'm not at all. I mean, I saw a video the other day of a dude. I think he was having to go down into like the sludge out of a mine. 6 figures right out the rip.
Oh yeah.
I watched. There was an old episode of that Dirty Jobs. Remember that show, Dirty Jobs?
Yeah.
And he was in like Mexico City, and they had to like dive in the sewer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh fuck!
2 people who would do it,
Uh,
and if they had the full like old school diving suits on that completely sealed them in with an air tube.
yeah,
Yep. Joe Dirte?
man, oh man. Yeah, biggest city in the world. Dive in.
Yeah, there's like
God
2
only
people who
knows
do
what's in
job.
that sewer.
Yeah, I remember the exact episode you're talking about because there was only like 2 people who would do it, and the toxicity level of that sludge was so bad. If the suit got compromised, whoever went in is basically signing a death certificate.
I like those odds.
All right,
Yeah.
I'll take that bet.
Yeah, never tell me the odds. Are we waiting for anybody else?
No, it's more of a full send now, and
Mm-hmm.
if you make it, you make it.
Yep. We got to get Phil back on here. He hasn't been on in a while.
Yeah, Phil, Charlie.
Bleak. Well, I don't know what Bleak's doing
Bleak.
either.
Well, Bleak's been on just about every week except for this week.
Ask him. He's on
Oh.
chat right now.
Yeah,
I know.
There was
Blake,
one
where you
week
at?
he missed because of D&D.
I think that was last week.
Mm-hmm.
Which missing for D&D, perfectly acceptable.
I ended my D&D session in time to be here for this.
Nice.
And then we started talking about more nerd shit when you came in. Oh, for anybody who's interested in chat, I will be streaming the new Harry Potter game after Weirdos Assemble is over.
He's
On
gonna kill a
Twitch.
bunch of kids.
Yeah. Avada Kedavra,
I'm
bitches.
not in the game yet. But when I am, the game's gonna be like, why the fuck is this asshole not in Slytherin?
As a Gryffindor, killing everything he sees. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna say it won't happen.
You know, you're gonna make Gryffindor lose the house prize at the end of the school year.
There won't be anybody
Yeah,
else.
that'll end your precious little game, won't it? No house prize.
Now, unfortunately, like
There has to be
Because-
survivors in order for someone else to win the house cup.
but then like there's always just like a freak awesome thing that happens to Gryffindor. So it's like your team will catch the golden snitch, and then you have
No,
1,000 points. You win. Doesn't matter.
That's just Harry.
Well, I mean, they canceled Quidditch in the game, so
What?
So
yeah,
I was
there's no
actually
Quidditch in the game.
I was talking with Sid about this the other day because I made that joke about like, oh, are you going to become the new seeker for the Quidditch team? And she's like, oh, that's going to be a much later patch. So it's not in the base game, but I think they're going to add it in later.
Yes, Automat Kalishnikova. I don't need a Vada Kedavra.
Bruiser, bless you. I don't know, you're sneezing, but bless you.
No, the joke is instead of having a machine gun, you just tape a bunch of wands to a fucking spatula or something and fucking a Vada Kedavra.
Old school Gatlin, I got a crank.
Oh no.
Oh man. Nerds.
You realize we can't hear it.
Yeah, you'd have to share.
You can't hear it?
No, you have
No,
to share
that's
your audio.
Probably good.
I thought I clicked that.
We won't get
Oh,
copyrighted.
fuck me. Now it's stupid. Shut up.
Well, now-
Go back to
no,
what you were
Nerd!
It's okay
nerding
if we're
out on.
reacting to it.
Nerd!
Nerds.
It gets the point across.
Oh, alright. So, who put the topic up for this week? Because I've been so fucking busy, I have not had a chance to look.
I can check right quick.
I don't know who put it up. It wasn't. I don't think it was me. Maybe it was though.
Oh, no, that was me. Because we were talking about it. Yeah, just I guess I don't know a whole lot about it, but the opinion on the Harley X350s and the Harley 500s, they're Chinese company that they're potentially bringing here to the U.S. At least
Yeah,
for
but
their like MSF course.
Yeah, I was gonna
It's
say,
here.
isn't it just
Well-
for the MSF?
I believe there is talk about making them into production models that they can sell, because that's just like a market that Harley isn't really hitting with small bikes that a lot of other companies are.
Yeah, and
Like,
what my understanding of it is right now is that they're going to. The bikes are already here in America at the dealerships, but I think what Harley's going to do, and if there's already news out there that tell us differently, then I'll just whatever. I'm wrong, but I think they're not going to put them for retail sale for at least like 2 or 3 years, and then they'll have to phase out the Riders Academy, I think is what they call it, right? They'll have to swap out those bikes probably annually. So what you're going to start seeing is like those what are the X350s? I don't even know what it's called. Those small bore
X350,
bikes
X500, I think, is what it
start
is.
getting sold in like a couple of years, and then if they are successful, I bet Harley would then be like, oh shit, like people actually like these, and then start to make them more in mass.
I could see them getting X number of them, and then maybe putting like 2 on the showroom floor to sell, just to see how it would do, and the rest would be for their small MSF courses. I could see them doing that, because I know that when I was looking for a starter bike, I didn't want to go any bigger than 650. And that's part of the reason why I ended up going at the Rebel 500. It's small, light, wasn't very expensive, it was comfortable, it met a lot of my check boxes and my needs. And when I got it, I also didn't ever think I was going to ride the way I'm riding now. So, if it wasn't for that, if I would have just stuck to my original plans of only really riding in Ohio, the Rebel would be the only bike I would have and continue to have, because it just does so well with it. But now that I'm getting to the idea of these more grandiose rides of, going from Ohio to Tampa, going from, Ohio to the West Coast, a larger bike is necessary for me.
I was thinking about this earlier. I don't think when I was probably, let's just say, teenager age, up through until about a couple of years ago, if somebody had told me about the Street 750 or the Street 500, Harley has had this bike before, but my opinion is that nobody was really singing its praises, and it didn't sell because they didn't look like traditional Harley, whatever that means. Take it as you will. But with this new round of bikes, I think, honestly, my personal opinion, I think they look really good, and they still look Harley-esque. I know I told somebody that they kind of remind me of the XR 1200, XR 750. Just, they're a little bit sporty looking, but they're still Harley. But
I don't think they look Harley at all.
Just the rear tail of it.
I think it's kind of ugly. And if you were going to buy a small bike like this, like a beginner bike, I think you're much better off going with a Japanese small cruiser than, God knows what they would even charge for this thing just because it says Harley Davidson on it. So, that's probably $5,000 more than its competitor.
It could be. You're always going to pay a Harley tax, but I want to say when they had the Street 500, it was like $8,000, I think, which is still, for a 500, I think that was still above market price then. But I wouldn't be surprised if it was well above or well below 10 for the 350. Definitely for the 350, they would never sell them otherwise.
Well, on top of that, there are people out there who have brand loyalty, like, well, I will only ever own and have Harley. And then there are people who want to get their kids into bikes and will get them their first bike. And, maybe like for me, and I know that I found out I have a very opposite opinion compared to a lot of people who say, even a 650 is kind of like the tops of what a new rider should get on. Most people I've talked to is like, no, I wouldn't throw a new rider on anything smaller than like an 883. I'm a little, I don't know, to me that would have been too big.
That's 883 is not strictly a beginner's bike. That's a lot for a beginner.
Right. That was my thought. So that's why when I said I was looking for a bike, I was looking like right around the 500, 650 range. So it's big enough that I won't immediately grow out of it, but also small enough that I can learn appropriately. So I do think that is a market Harley has been missing for a few years, and that's why I think these X350s and 500s could tap into that market that they're not utilizing. Because, like Juice said, in the past, they did have a similar kind of small engine bike. But at that time, Harley was known for having these big, powerful engines, and that's all anybody wanted.
That's still all any Harley person wants.
But now is a very different market.
117, that's not big enough. Let's make it a 131.
Or
It's
somebody who put I think it's a 143 Dominator or something like that in their Road King.
Horsepower.
Well, and what's messed up is Harley, some of their original models, they weren't, a V-twin manufacturer to begin with. They made singles. And if they'd put a single even, I'm always griping that I wish they'd come out with a couple more offerings. If they'd even just make a single, something small that, again, would be entry level and people could get into. But they're so, focused on being this premium brand. And good, reach for the stars in anything you do. But, you're also skipping over a whole lot of people who may want to get in on your product.
And on top of that, just looking, I am by no means an expert. I don't even wrench on my own bike, but I do watch a lot of people who do the teardowns and custom fabrication, really make a bike unique in their own. I could see someone, a custom bike builder, getting a hold of one of the X500s and just making some really unique things out of it.
Well, and again, so they have some flat track stuff they do, but they're doing the King of the Baggers, but they're still missing out on a whole series of races. You know, a lot of the GP stuff happens in the 400 range, and I don't know. I would just think you'd want to be involved in all that, especially with their history and their tie to racing.
They're an image-driven company. Their image is what it is, and that's what works, and that's what people like about them. And so it seems that most Harley, fanboys, they don't want the company to deviate from that. So
I get that, but at
Yes,
the same time,
change has to happen for the company to survive.
yeah, and I mean, going along with that,
or a bowling ball manufacturer could bail you out, keep your company alive for a while.
but going kind of
Until one of the
in line,
Davison Air spies back.
in line with they have this image to uphold, but also needing to adapt and change to the times. Their new RevMax engine lineup. They made the Nightster a very sporty but bike, and I think that bike, it's a 975. I don't think that'd be a good beginner bike. I think it's got a little too much pep to it. It's a little too
got too much
touchy on the
sauce.
throttle.
Yeah, it's got some sauce. It does have sauce.
Especially if you put it in sport mode.
Yeah, but most people, at least, people with common sense would leave it in rain mode. That way that they get the delayed throttle
That's all I wrote it in was in rain
until
mode.
they learned how to use, how to get actually get in tune with the bike and learn it. Then ratchet it up to fucking normal, and then to fucking
I mean, all I wrote,
rain, street, and sport.
yeah, I think that's all it had. I wrote it in rain mode the whole time, and I still thought it was super responsive and very peppy.
I wrote it in sport mode.
Right.
I gave no fucks. I threw it in sport. Just like,
They didn't show me how to change modes. They just threw me on it and said, let's go. They didn't show me how to turn it on or anything, so I figured all that out. But I mean, if we look at the Nightster, the Sportster S, and the Pan America, those three bikes are definitely breaking away from the typical Harley norm of a cruiser and or bagger.
honestly,
And
I'd say we're
really
not
breaking
too
them
far
down.
away from.
And they're only like 30, 40 years behind everybody else in making the change.
Right, but now they're seeing
We're-
that they need to start tapping into these other markets. So I do
Yeah.
see them value in them trying to get, maybe not a lot, but a couple of the 350s and the 500s on the market floor or on the showroom
In the
floor.
next 10 years, we're gonna see an entire the entire Harley lineup's gonna be water cooled.
No.
For sure.
Yeah,
Well,
I think
It,
so.
it's gonna have to meet
in
EPA
like 10 years
regulations.
for sure.
Yeah.
I think the Pan Am is a gorgeous bike. I really do. Would I take it over an Africa Twin as far as functionality? Again, it goes back to racing. And if you're not going to actually even field your bikes, if you're not going to try to step up to a Dakar or something, I don't know. Why wouldn't I take what's tried, tested, and true?
Exactly.
I might be a little off base with this comment. Granted, I've not really ridden ADV bikes, but the Africa Twin is a very tried and true bike, yes, but it is also a very capable off-road bike. Whereas I think the intentions of Pan America was, yes, to have a adventure bike that could do some off-road, but the way it looks, I think it is still primarily a on-road, on paved, or very packed like
Now,
chip seal
now
kind of
go
thing.
back and watch all the old promotional material of
Yeah.
people on Pan Americas ripping around out in the dirt.
Yep.
They marketed it as an adventure bike,
Yeah.
just like a KTM, a BMW, a Honda, whatever. I agree. Put it in some competitions then. You know,
Right.
let's see how it really holds up with pros under it.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a very new bike to be on the market, so it hasn't been stress tested yet to that extent, at least not to my knowledge. So I am intrigued to see how it does hold up. But they are, I do commend Harley for actually really starting to try to break into these other styles of riding and market that they haven't really touched in a long time or tried to touch.
That's because they're realizing that their older market, the ones that demand that they stay true to classic and true to form,
Are dying
are
off.
within the next 15 years of dying.
Yep.
Yeah, well, we've aged
Then
completely
where's your
out.
market?
Yeah.
I mean,
They
yeah,
got Johann
it's
Zeiss.
just. I guess it's probably cyclical of what's going to be in style and wanted by the masses.
If you put a guy in charge of your company who comes from the shoe world and makes a shoe that falls apart after 6 months, then what are you really doing to your brand in the long run? I'm not saying he's not a capable CEO, but his vision for the future of Harley Davidson may not be a good one. And again, they're trying to build this premium brand, but are they planning on selling more t-shirts than they are bikes? That's what I see a lot of. In fact, when I go to the dealer, and I really like Harley, I love the history behind it. They've been in manufacture 120 years. They're coming up on that birthday. That's big. That's huge. That's sort of that tried, tested, and true. But if now you want to sell me more leathers and shirts than you do a bike, that's the direction you took. And don't be surprised if I go to a company that wants to sell me bikes, that wants to race on Sunday and sell on Monday.
You know what though? Here's what I would counter that with is that if you're talking about the current CEO, right? He's like German guy or something like that.
Johann
So
Zeiss.
what? Yeah, I couldn't have
Bless
remember
you.
his name. yeah, God bless. What I would say is that in Europe, I think they're way more exposed to those cult brands. So you've got Porsche, Ferrari, Lamborghini. Those brands where if you look at their sales figures, they are racing teams. They're like highly competitive, but most of their sales are merchandise and apparel, not the actual cars. And I suspect that that's probably where the Harley CEO's head's at, is that by focusing on merchandise sales, you're actually creating a cult of personality, of Harley personality, and then like building it into American culture in a way that is not like I know whether or not you like European soccer, which they call football, like it's like a religion. So the brands that are associated with those sort of cult activities, I think like there's some serious weight to that. That makes sense.
Yeah. And again, I come back to the issue of if you're not getting out there, you're not being seen at races, you're sort of just selling to a cult of personality. And as Bear was saying, that generation's going to be coming up and say the next 15 years dying off. What are you doing to really bring in a younger market? Your guys' kids will be into it because you were into it. Well, what about everybody else? There's a whole lot of people in this world who, I don't know, I don't feel are getting dragged into motorcycles, or it's not like it was when I was growing up. And I've heard other people talk about this where you had posters on the wall of shit you wanted. You don't see kids putting up posters of the motorcycles they want anymore, or the cars, or Cindy Crawford.
What the problem is, they're not going to get a lot of youthful buyers because these kids are going to be fucking broke, man. Like this generation coming up, everything is so fucking expensive. How are they going to afford a Harley Davidson when they could have got an equivalent Honda or Kawasaki for half the price?
No,
or a Royal Enfield for
Oh
Yeah.
3 to 5,
Oh yeah.
an Interceptor, and still
mean,
feel cool and be
If
above the Grom kids.
if I would have honestly known more about Royal Enfield when I got the Rebel because I just started to hear about the brand at the time and I knew nothing about them. But the only one I heard anything about and knew anything about was the Meteor 350. It's like that
Built
would be
like a
great.
gun.
Yeah, I'm like that would be a great starter bike, but that's a little small. Also because I was rather heavy when I was looking at bikes. I've lost a little bit of weight since then and put it back on. That's besides the point. But had I known now that they had 650s like the INT 650, the classic 650,
Interceptor.
The Interceptor, and now they're getting ready to do a Meteor 650. I think it's going to come out much later this year. If Nicole were here, she could give a much better explanation of that.
Well, yeah, they're a company who's been around since 1955, and I mean
Right.
they've had time to really sort of hammer out the issues that they would face during the manufacturing process, just as any other sort of legacy manufacturer.
Yeah.
I just don't think they've had the opportunity to flourish here in the United States.
No.
Actually, none of the companies have. The deck's sort of always been stacked against them, and I think one of the things that really helped not only move the market forward or move the product forward in research and design and development is competition. I'm not talking racing now, but just between builders, between manufacturers, to make a bike people want to buy.
Right. I remember.
Well, that's what Royal Enfield did. That's why they're having success right now. It's largely on the back of the Himalayan. I mean, they made an affordable ADV bike that people love and sold a shit ton of them. 10 years ago, who was talking about Royal Enfields in any capacity?
in the
I
US,
mean,
People in India.
next to no one.
yeah, people in India, that's it.
The 8 billion people in India, but yeah.
They don't count. Come on. I meant Americans.
They have very
Damn it.
America.
Over there in India, they have very different rules and laws and regulations than us. So, we scoff at like an 80cc bike being a real bike, but to them, that's their most common.
Carry your whole family on that sucker over there.
Yeah, and
I want one of them bikes.
we say that the Royal Enfields are all good starter bikes, which to us is a very true statement, but to them, that's like their top of the line, their BMWs, their Harleys. That is what Royal Enfield is for them. So, I mean, now that it's starting to take off in popularity in the US, I went from never hearing about them to just like the last couple of years, I see advertisements for them now. I see them on the road. Hell, even out
You
here
see
in my-
dealerships now. I mean,
Yeah.
10 years ago, I could have never told you where to go buy a Royal Enfield.
Even
Now
5
there's
years ago.
dealerships all over the place.
I found one here in Iowa. I had actually contacted Enfield about franchise options or just information, or can you buy a couple of bikes and sell them like, I think you can, I don't remember what the rules are in Iowa. You can sell up to like 8 things and then you have to become a business. Just to see if I could do it here in Des Moines. But
How's
in
it
Iowa
going,
City,
Jay?
a college town, they have a Enfield retailer, and I hear they're doing quite well. And they're probably selling to college kids because at $100 a month payment, they can get into that.
Oh yeah, the Royal Enfields are very affordable. I think one of their 650s is, I think the MSRP, and not just the MSRP, but even like the out the door cost is less than my Rebel 500 was. And you're getting a slightly bigger engine.
Now, Honda has a network here in the U.S. that you have to take into account
Yes,
as part of your overall purchase.
right. That's very true. Yeah, but the one thing I will give almost every single Royal Enfield over the Rebels is I love a cafe looking bike, and that's what pretty much half of the Royal Enfield bikes look like. They have a very cafe kind of look to them.
Yeah.
I think
That's a
they
niche.
also have a lot of elements of Triumph, sort of the
Some-
street twin, that
Yeah,
real low but cruiser-esque British throwback.
Yeah.
They do. They look like a Triumph clone.
hmm I know one of the bigger, at least that I've gotten to see online and locally, people who are getting the Royal Enfields are a lot of these older riders who are getting to a point now where they're 900 pound Harleys or 900 pound Goldwing, other, comparative bikes are just getting to be a little too much for them to handle, and they're downsizing to like the INT 650 or the 650 Classic. These smaller, lighter, in-town kind of bikes, because they're not doing these huge bike trips anymore. Most of the time, they're just riding around town, so they're downsizing to something that's just easier for them to be on. So I think that Royal Enfield has a good market of not just entry-level riders, but even people who are kind of getting toward the end of their riding time. And, they're hitting everything in between as well.
It'll be real interesting to see over the next 5 years how these manufacturers stack up. Another boon for Harley is they have their network. And while running around with Remote Coder from the Discord while he was here in town, or coming through town while heading off to motorcycle school, he had an issue with his bike. The Big Barn got him right in. Travelers take a first come. And I thought, wow, that's up there. That's attention to your customers. And
that doesn't happen at every Harley dealership. I mean, I've heard stories of nightmares of guys not being able to get things done at Harley shops on the road, and ended up going to some mom and pop shop that we'll get you in. We'll take care of it. So I mean, there are some really great Harley dealers out there, and there's a lot of dealerships, but there's some crap dealerships too.
Like one that charges you almost $700 for an oil change, changing spark plugs, and putting a new front tire on your bike.
Oh, you got a Ducati too?
No,
my first bike was a Ducati. Oh, I'm sorry. And I made it to my first oil change, and then I realized I am not a Ducati guy.
Yeah, no, this has been my most expensive maintenance bill to date. When I got a new rear tire, it was a new rear tire, full oil change. They changed another fluid, I don't remember off the top of my head, and they readjusted a chain because I just got a new chain put on not too long before that, and it was like $360, and I thought that was steep. But now this one being almost $700, it's like, what the fuck? They charged.
Time to pull out the tools and.
How much of that was shop time though?
$499, wasn't it?
Or something. Yeah, it was like 400 something.
Man, oh man! So they're charging you 4 hours a time for that?
Just to do the front tire was like $89 and some change, just to swap the front tire. Yeah. So yeah, it's 400. Okay. It was $450 rounding.
You need to go to a new dealership.
Yeah, it should be like $50, dude.
I was gonna say no, like it's like $40 around me.
That's just down the road, but yeah.
I thought that was a ripoff. I've gotten it done for like $20.
Yeah, after that, once I come back from Forgotten Angels this March, I'm gonna start piecing together a appropriate catalog of equipment. Start doing the maintenance on my own, and I'll see if when I need a new tire, if I bring them the tire, the new tire and the wheel, if they'll swap it for me. But other than that, I'm gonna figure out everything else myself.
Oh, you know what? I know why it's $80. It's because they have
because it was on the bike.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they get like labor time for that, then in addition to like actually swapping the tire.
And then
Aaron, I've been.
They probably charge you about $10 to get rid of the tires too.
Say I've been putting a lot of that time into YouTube University, trying to learn how to do work on my bike, and I'd had it winterized by this mechanic I've been going to, great guy, and he had told me loosely, he's like, here's how you start it back up when you're ready, and I've been waiting for that day. That day came today, and I did it right, and I was just like patting myself on the back and hooting and hollering that I was able to start the damn thing, and
There's a huge sense of satisfaction wrenching on your own stuff. I mean, when I finally got those carburetors working correctly on the Goldwing, it was a task that just when I first started seemed like, oh my God, I am just should not be doing this. I'm not a good enough mechanic to dig around in here. I don't know enough about this stuff. And just like you said, YouTube University. So I just read and watched everything I could, and then just did it. And when you're done, you saved money, and now you know how to do something that you didn't know how to do before. So it's like a win-win.
You've learned and saved a boatload of money.
And you didn't even have to switch to Geico.
Well, I actually already use Geico, so switching won't happen.
Plus, it's like machismo, man. I have a fucking wrench on my own bike, dude. I'm not gonna pay somebody to do this.
I think I've already proved I have big enough nuts with the Rebel.
No, it's still a Rebel.
Yeah.
Aaron, I scheduled, after talking with you the other day, just because I couldn't help myself, I stopped at Garvis Honda, and scheduled a ride when they get one of the Rebel 1100 fully dressed baggers in. And they're not getting a manual. The manuals will be available, but the salesman was like, no, we're not getting one of those. They're not available. And I'm like watching a Honda review video where they're like, and it'll come in a manual.
Oh, I
Now-
heard it was
I
DCT only.
I haven't
Well,
seen
see,
that
that's
yet
what
either.
the salesman told me, but then I watched the video, so I don't know. I assume the video was released by Honda, and they know more than that salesman does, but maybe it's not available in our market.
That's what I was about to say.
All I will say about the 1100T is that with the price,
It's butt ugly.
I'm not even going to get into that, but I think with the price difference between a Rebel 1100 and the 1100T, you are better off to get the 1100. You can get the same fairing, and you can get much nicer bags that you will like, can hold more, and are probably of a equal to better quality for less than the price difference.
Well, see, it's a Honda, and I had a thought. You know how Harley kind of revived their FXR fairing? Why not do the old Windjammer that Honda used to rock on the old school Gold Wings, and do something like that where you do kind of a retro throwback on the 1100.
All the Harley people get all pissed, be like, you guys copied us. And then be like, no, you.
That's the sincerest form of flattery, bro.
No, because I think that Windjammer fairing inspired a lot of the touring fairings that Harley used.
Yeah, wasn't it
Probably
made
just
by
did it
a
better.
third party company or somebody in their garage, and then
Me
it
and Juice were
was
actually
so
talking about that
well
earlier.
received that Honda.
Yeah, me and Juice were talking earlier. So what happened was the Goldwing was originally a sport bike, and people were putting bags on it and the fairings. And Windjammer was its only thing. It was kind of like Crador and some of these other companies. They just made stuff that would fit other people's stuff. And so then Goldwing started using Windjammer. So did Harley. It's almost like when everyone was buying the Baker 6-speed trannies, and then all of a sudden you could get them from the dealer with a Baker 6-speed tranny. Baker wasn't part of Harley. It wasn't part of Triumph. They just made their own stuff, and the dealers were end up putting it on there themselves.
Yeah.
If that
I think that's why the ST ended up getting made. Is so many people were getting the Lowrider and Lowrider S's and getting those old FXR fairings and putting them on.
The best fairing ever is the CM400 fairing, like Purple Rain style.
Yeah.
Honda Matic, baby.
I would love to see another 80s version of the Nighthawk. I would buy one of those.
Honda Matic.
Yeah, Jerry said in the comments.
Isn't that the Honda Matic? That was the Prince bike, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
You
that's
got
one
a
of
picture
them.
pulled up? Can you share it to the screen?
Oh, I
hang
thought
on.
he had a Kawasaki. I thought
Oop,
his was a
shit.
Kawasaki.
If I stop clicking on the wrong things.
Oh,
Speaking
you
of
know what?
80s
He did.
Nighthawks,
He had a KZ440, I think.
dude,
Yeah,
I
he had a
see
Kawasaki.
Who?
80
Prince?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's a Honda Matic. It's a CM400.
Well, going with what Jerry said about bringing back the 80s Nighthawks, I see 80s and early 90s Nighthawks on Marketplace around Ohio all the time.
Constantly.
I've seen where some people have tried stripping them down and making them into cafes, and it just doesn't quite look right to me.
So Kawasaki makes a purpose-built cafe that's pretty decent.
The
Or you could just buy a
W800.
Royal Enfield and have a
Yeah.
cafe bike.
For 2/3 the price.
That's true.
Honestly, that W800, I'm surprised they still make it because I wonder how many of those they sell.
I
It's
don't
not
think
priced
ever
very
seen
well,
one.
to be honest. It's like it's hard to tell what brand it is. So I think they're trying to hide that it's a Kawasaki. They want you to think it's a Brit bike, or like it's a Royal Enfield or something. But it's just like it's a little too subtle, a little too gray, a little too vague. That's just my opinion, though.
Well, while we wait for this picture, I mean, yeah, let's jump back into conversation.
Yeah.
So
Don't
Rainey,
wait on me.
Rainey, what's your opinion on the Harley X350s and 500?
I think they're gonna run better than any bike that Harley has running right now. Of course, they'd make them bigger. I mean, if you want to know,
Well,
I mean,
there's also the Shinray.
yeah, I can't remember who's already
Look at
using
that.
same
Oh,
platform.
That looks like a big bike for Prince. What a tiny, tiny little man.
He is a tiny dude. He's what, 5'2",
that, though.
5'3". He's not. He wasn't very big.
Maybe without his heels on.
Man, if you listen to the Charlie Murphy stories about that guy, Prince was
That's
an
some of the
OG
funniest shit ever.
badass.
Yeah. Most of the shit is the same damn pictures.
Oh, you had a good one down there at the bottom.
Yeah. I think it's like a 4-speed automatic, right?
This music you picked out, Goon, is great.
Yeah, I like it.
It's a bop.
So one thing I was noticing about the X350, and I have the photo kind of pull up on my thing, but I don't know. I think to me, it very much looks like they took a sport bike frame and then sort of made it on some like Sportster-esque styling for the quote-unquote tank and the seat and the tail. But this bike, even the 350, is 36 horsepower, which I think is pretty good for that small of a CC.
That's plenty of horsepower.
Especially like
How much more do you need? Any more would be dangerous.
for a newbie?
Yeah, I wouldn't even say new because, like I pointed out, a lot of Royal Enfield sales are to older riders who are getting away from the heavy baggers. I think that those would be a good lighter bike for older riders that are, getting to handle their baggers are a little too much, but want to keep a Harley without going to a Sportster.
Just throw a turbo on it.
Let's go to a Sportster over one of those new ugly fucking bikes.
I honestly would
Looks
pick
like a
one of
kid's
those
bike.
bikes over a Sportster.
That's what I said, a kid's bike. Fuck.
I would love to have one of the new Nightsters. I just don't want to pay for it.
So make sure that
That's pretty much me with all Harleys. Man, I'd love that. I so would pay for it.
So Goon, just take your lowrider S in for service and have it catch fire.
No.
Hey, SD upgrade.
No.
I hate to say it, but I think Harley's gonna
The
screw
next
this
bike
one
that
up
Harley
just like
burns,
they
someone will get
did.
shot.
Harley has this habit of starting a bike, and if it doesn't catch on in 2 years, they trash it. And that's their toxic trait. They won't stay with anything long enough for it to actually become popular. If it doesn't immediately work, they trash it, unless it's something, and then they just won't let go of it.
The people are more into V-rods now than they were when they were out,
Yeah,
when they
if
were
they would've
available
kept-
new.
So
if they would've kept
I
the
didn't
V-rods
look at the
going, that would've been a
caption of
great
that
bike.
picture and I looked straight at it,
Yeah.
it looked like a Sportster.
That motor, I don't know what it would cost just to get that scent of the crate motor and to build a chopper around. But to have that Shinrei Evo motor. I don't know. I'd love to have one. I think that would be where I would start if I wanted to do a build. Just me.
You know, I'm sure someone has one for sale in the U.S. already, where they imported it just for someone wanting to do a project like that. I'm sure there's a hefty premium fee attached to it because of it, but
One of the beauties of that motor being manufactured sort of over there again is now you have all this metal that is not warped by the time or miles put on it, and you could right away start, I don't know, throwing, what are they, the big bore kits and the cams, or the just making a beast from hell out of it, and knowing that it was going to be run like a new motor.
So back to these 350 500s. I think, just to kind of go back to this whole cult of personality component of it, what I think the main reason that they're not offering the 350 and 500 for retail sale to customers is to test the waters on desirability. So kind of what Rainey was saying, it's like, if it doesn't do well, or if there's not perceived interest or desire in it, then they'll just axe it. You'll never see it on the showroom floor, I should say, as a new bike.
Well, let's say you're building a premium brand and you don't want to sour the well on your existing customer base, which would be the Milwaukee 8 people. You still have a bike, or at least a motor and a bike, that's mostly built here. So you have the red-blooded American market, still. But they already asked or already tried doing some, what is it, not the patents, the restriction licensing in California for the version B and the version C of that, is it the 300, that XR 300A? There's a 300A, a 300B, and a 300C. The B and C were both submitted to California for, what is it, the EPA stuff. And if they pass, that could actually get sold here. I mean, they're going to have to do something because Harley wants to roll them out to their training courses. And so they could be sold. Would they be sold on the floor of a Harley dealership as we know it? I don't know. Maybe they'd get put in another building, if you will. Because again, they don't want to sour their main market here. Around the world, if that bike takes off, there's no scenario where it doesn't begin to filter back to us.
It's true. And I think they are just Benelli. That's the motor. And I think that's what Bruiser's saying in the chat. And then once he said it, I was like, yeah, I think that the motor's Benelli.
Benelli uses that, but the motor's actually made by somebody else, I think. And whatever this was, it Shenzhen? I think somebody said it earlier. But yeah, Shinrei. Benelli just.
Well, I thought Shinrei. I thought that was the Evo motors.
Yeah, Shinrei makes.
I can't remember. But there's another motorcycle, but yeah, Benelli actually gets that made by somebody else, and so Benelli was bought out by another company, and I can't remember which one it is. Maybe I'll look it up real quick. But don't listen to me. I'm typing.
No, type louder. Come on.
Yeah.
Type loudly, please.
I really like the idea of the parallel twin. I think
so Benelli got bought by Qingjiang Motorcycle in China. So they're all made by Qingjiang Motorcycles.
Qingjiang, bitch.
Qingjiang.
You want to say it one more time?
I'm Qingjiang, bitch.
Which I think Qingjiang might also be the one that made the Alphas.
Got a homeboy named Qingjiang.
Yeah.
No.
Everybody's got a homeboy named Qingjiang.
Stop playing. How you know?
I just I don't see what looks good about that bike. It just doesn't look special or interesting to me at all. These
But it's a
small
Harley.
Harley things. It doesn't look like one.
No, but I think that's the point.
Yeah,
It's supposed to look like for the younger market. I think
Right.
that is the intention.
Have you?
I think that's the wrong way to go. I don't think the younger market likes that look over the look of a V twin. I mean, they might like water cooled over air cooled and some more modern tech on their bikes, but you know, the V twin's always going to be a desirable looking power plant.
I don't disagree with you. I think that we've been talking about like this whole premium brand thing. I think they're trying to bring in new non-rider people that really don't care about V twin versus parallel twin versus water cooled, air cooled. I think they are playing into this, trying to build that brand. Let's bring in the new people and make Harley a premium brand for everybody, not just people that want V twin. That's just speculation. I mean, that's just the way I see it.
The 350 and the 500 would be great economy motorcycles if Harley wanted to start making economy motorcycles. Just like the 500 Street would have been fantastic, but again, they just gave up on it. And instead of people were buying them, and nobody's going to buy a whole bunch of something your first year unless you really overhype it, and then that's usually overhyped. Just like the V-Rods, if they would have stuck with them and let them go a little further and let them actually circulate a little bit, they would have sold the crap out of them. And they did later, now that they're not making them anymore. And it's not because it's a vintage bike, it's because now people realize they were actually good bikes. It just took people a while to realize it. So, and there's two brands, like in the last 5 years, that one of them is Livewire, that Harley has put out of business. Can't sell their bikes anymore. Livewire's just now getting to where they can sell the bikes, and Harley's still limiting them from looking like they did when they were the Harley Livewire. And there's another ADV bike that Harley has put in the dirt, and it's just been in the last couple of years. And instead of letting this company, they decided not to pursue the company, and instead of letting the company just make its own bikes again, Harley covered them in so much restriction that the company is going out of business again. You know, they're trying to get, they can't sell the bike to another manufacturer. They can't do anything with the bike themselves. They can't sell it as an individual. So Harley just, I don't know, man. It seems like if they can't have it, they don't want anybody to have the product. So even if they don't think it's going to pass themselves, it's very, very frustrating.
Speaking of companies that Harley has screwed over, have you seen the new Buells?
Yes.
I don't know anything about
Buell's another one.
Buell,
Yes.
The new Buells look good, and you can reserve them right now. So it looks like there's a couple. They have an ADV bike. They have crotch rocket bike. I mean, they've got a little bit of everything, but it all looks really good.
Their new ADV looks like a monster. It is ridiculous. And yeah, they're gonna. You can bet they're gonna be expensive when they come out. But oh my God, they look monstrous. They're gonna sell them.
Well, the ADV bike, this MSRP at $21,000.
Man, the 1190 Baja, is that what you guys are talking about?
Yeah.
There's
Oh,
a
that's
super
pretty.
something. I don't remember.
the Super Cruiser. I'll say that's a cruiser. That ain't ADV.
No,
That
there's
almost
there's
looks like
like
a
an
Dyna.
ADV bike.
Buell's got a 1190 SX, 185 horsepower adventure model. The brand Reborn is the picture I'm looking at. Maybe that's just concept art.
Throw it up here. Let's see what it looks like. I saw or not.
All right.
But yeah, the one I saw was a BBM, big black monster.
That's what this looks like. Okay, chat. Share. Share.
Yeah, that's the same one I saw.
I like that. It really.
That's cool looking.
To
See, that's what I mean.
yeah, a mean, stylish.
They got a really that's a really high bend for off-road bars. I like it. It just looks really interesting and
Well, I mean, look
sporty.
how low it is.
I say yeah. It doesn't look like it has much clearance.
No, it's got like 6 inches of ground clearance.
I think
Yeah,
these
but
brands
that's
are
gonna be
finally
a
catching
big
on that
bike.
like people don't take these bikes off road.
It's listed as dual sport, so I mean,
Yeah, if
Well,
put that one beside the Ulysses and realize how high the Ulysses seat is, I think that Ulysses is probably like 33 inches. So if you look at that one and the same, that's gonna be a big bike with big tires.
well, and you know, any manufacturer now follows this minimum viable product because they want to sell you aftermarket parts, or not aftermarket, but other parts. So if that's a monoshock like it looked like in the picture, it makes sense that it came with one edition of shock, but there was some other shock you could throw on there that would not only, you know, give you a more sporty off-roady advantage, maybe even push that swing arm down a little bit and give you a little more ground clearance. I don't know.
Hey, going back to the new Pipsqueak Harleys, I just want to say here, here, I'm going to share this. Why would I buy this when this exists?
They're not the same. That's not even. The
I'm
same
just
as-
telling you, man, you get so much more, and you know the price is going to be comparable.
Heart of a Ninja.
I mean, for me,
Yeah.
and it's the look. I hate the way the Vulcans look.
Do you think that this Harley looks better than that Vulcan S?
No.
My personal opinion, I do.
That's just
Aaron, have
you
you
have
seen
piss
the-
poor taste, and
have you
your
seen the Cafe
opinion does
Vulcan?
not matter anymore.
You
Yeah,
are
the
the
engineering
second
on
person
that
to say that
Vulcan
to me
looks
today.
so good.
I
Aaron.
don't like the look of that Vulcan. Yeah,
Check out the Vulcan Cafe Edition.
Okay, I guess my
I think
point,
it's listed
especially with
cap.
the 350, if you compare it to like the MT300 or what is it, MT3 or any of those, like the Rebel 300, assuming the price is actually not out of the ballpark, crazy high for Harley, like I think if you were shopping between those three bikes, I'd want to go with the Harley if I was a new rider and it was like a relatively the same cost.
Yeah, but you have to find a Harley that's relatively the same price because
We don't know.
interesting, but their entry level bike is not, well, is the Nightster right now.
I was gonna say we don't know what the price of the bikes are because they're not selling them.
Right, and
You can speculate, though. I mean, you know Harley; they've been around a long time. Can you imagine them selling that for cheaper
so,
than an equivalent or slightly better Japanese bike?
if we looked at one of their 883 Sportsters, those sold for around 11 or 12 grand
11.
MSRP. 11. I would have a hard time
The
seeing them
883s?
trying to post their 500. Go ahead, Randy.
No, the 883 sold for about 7,000. The Iron 12 sold for about 11.
Oh,
Yeah.
See,
My Iron
The
12
883s
cost
were way more though.
no. Iron 12 only cost it was like 10.8 after taxes and shit. It was like 11.5 and stuff.
Okay.
When was that?
That was
How long ago? Not too
about
far.
a year ago. Yeah.
I would have a hard time seeing them list listing the 500 for anything more MSRP than about 6 grand. I don't think they
It would
could.
be a really tough market.
They're not gonna make a bike and sell it for only 6 grand.
Well,
It's Harley.
if you keep up,
I just don't see it happening.
Harley was good at keeping this out of the news, but in 2020 they pulled Harleys out of the biggest motorcycle market in the world. They pulled them out of India, and I see this 350 come here. I think that was specifically built where they could try to refill that market in India because they were doing billions of dollars in sales in India, and all of a sudden it just stopped. So we may not even see those bikes here. We'll be lucky to see a few of them. I think most of those are going to go overseas to fill the markets where small motorcycles are prevalent, like India, Europe, Africa, because they want to bite everywhere and then try to move everyone up slowly into the bigger bike market. but they failed miserably in India. You want to look it up in 2020. That's why the bike market, World News thought Harley was going under because Harley India had gone bankrupt, and Harley did a really good job of squelching that news here, but it happened, and I don't know how you keep news out of the news. That's something I guess bigger markets do all the time, but yeah, look it up when you got time. The whole world thought Harley was going bankrupt.
Okay, I got one thing that I want to correct real quick. The MSRP for a Iron 883, 11,249.
That's what I thought. I thought if you got yours for that cheap, Rainey, I think you got a smoking deal, dude.
No, MSRP. The MSRP online for my bike was $99.99, and then by the time I paid up,
I'm looking at it right now.
all of it. There's no damn way.
From Harley Davidson, 2022 Iron 883, 11,249.
That's a ripoff.
Yeah, part of that's inflation, but
I mean, Big Macs cost like $10 now too.
Mine in 21 was cheaper than that. That is crazy. But yeah, the world went to shit in 22, so I can see it.
Is it worth it? Fuck no.
Do you
And
want
I
it?
loved my 883.
Well, I mean, in comparison with the 883, the new RevMax 975 on the Nightster being $2,000 more, I
Far and
think.
away a better fucking engine though.
yeah, an actual engine.
The
Makes
975 is,
more power, baby.
but that 975, I don't think that's a beginner bike. Even if they left it in rain mode, I really don't. Rain mode. I don't think it would be a good beginner bike.
I don't think a Sportster of any kind is a good beginner bike. I don't think a Harley is a good beginner bike.
I mean,
Until they release that 350, though.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but I just don't see. I don't see them ever doing that.
We'll see. Like I said, it's going to depend on desirability. Are people being like, wow, I really wish they would sell this bike? And what you might see happen is because it's a Rider Academy bike, is that the people that never ridden anything else, they go to the Rider Academy on a 350 or 500. They're like, I love this.
When I did my motorcycle course, I looked at all those bikes and went, "Oh my god, what a bunch of tiny pieces of shit! No wonder they're used for this."
Yeah,
I
the
mean-
TU250 and the similar bikes. Yeesh.
when I was in the market for my first bike, I bought something that was entirely too much for me. I bought that 03 Vulcan 800. I wrecked it the first day I was on the road with it. I fixed it up, took it on some more rides. Everything was fine. But I couldn't adjust to that bike. I couldn't learn throttle control with it because it was just too much engine, in my opinion. Granted, it had multiple owners before me. Maybe one of them got in there and tweaked some stuff because I think Rainey explained it before, like quarter turn, third turn to be like wide open, and it's just I felt like I hardly ever twisted the throttle, and I went from like 30 to 80 miles an hour, like it was nothing.
Yeah.
That's what Harleys feel like to me. I haven't ridden very many metric bikes that the throttle felt that snappy on cruiser style,
But
bikes.
also, when I was really looking for a bike, it was even before I got that. It was end of high school, beginning of college, and I was looking at like a Grom, something small and affordable, but not too big and heavy that learning on would be okay with. But then I also took a look at where I lived, out in Southeast Ohio, which has a lot of big steep hills, a lot of country roads, and a Grom wasn't going to take my fat ass home if I bought it. So that and it capping at about 50 miles an hour, and most of the roads out there are 55, people running 60, 65. It just wasn't going to be a good option. Whereas something with a 500 cc or a 650 cc engine would have been perfect. So that, something like that at a more affordable cost would have filled the gap. But at that time, that was before even like the Rebel 300 and 500 lineup came out. That was when Honda was still only doing the 250s. So
Yeah,
I never considered those.
I agree, Aaron. I started on an 800, and it stunted my learning curve for getting that experience on riding. Um, I had a lot of fear over that bike because it was a lot to handle. I mean, it was ready to rip, roar, and race. Um, and I think I hampered some of my learning just because I couldn't wring this bike's neck. It would have snapped mine. Um, and the one thing I will say about like the Ducati Scrambler line, the power, the way it comes on is incredibly smooth. It also just comes on very fast. And as you're trying to learn and even just, have loose arms and be able to play around in your lane, if you don't know what to do with all that power, it's not doing you any good. It's hampering you from learning. And it wasn't, I don't know, probably a year of riding that I actually began to learn about riding because I figured out how to wrangle that bike. That's all lost time now, but I would agree.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that my personal opinion, with me knowing myself as a person, I don't adjust to things quickly. I'm a very slow, like going through the process kind of person with stuff. Um, and I knew that it was going to be that way with riding, especially living in town, knowing that I was going to be dealing with a lot of traffic, a lot of stop and go. I just knew that like a smaller, lighter bike was going to be much better, and I wouldn't want to see anyone getting on something bigger than a 650 with the knowledge that if you decide to do more than just a little bit of frequent riding, if you're going to like ride every single day, that's going to be your daily transport, and you want to use it for long distance, like cross state or even out of state trips, then eventually you're going to have to get something a little bigger once you really learn how to ride. You're comfortable.
You keep saying 650 like it's small. Like,
it's not.
I mean,
not, but it's not too small.
Not all 650s are the same, but I mean that Vulcan 800 would have is very comparable to like a Yamaha, their 650 cruiser. What the heck? I don't know why the name's escaping me right now, but I mean, there's not a ton of difference in the power of those bikes. It's if the bike didn't fit you, like you just the ergonomically just didn't see yourself being on this bike, that's all fine and good, but I doubt it had a whole lot to do with the power of the bike.
A lot of it does also go with comfortability in the handling. I'd never felt like I really learned how to handle that bike, and anytime I rode it, I felt like it was just kind of throwing me around more often. I was never comfortable with turns, cornering, passing a vehicle if I needed to. It just.
So you went to your Rebel after that?
Yes, I went from the Vulcan 800 to the Rebel.
And how long did you ride that Vulcan?
I had the Vulcan I started riding it right after I got my license in 2018, and I sold it January 2021. But between the bike, I couldn't adjust to the bike. I didn't feel comfortable with it, so I was always afraid of it. I didn't ride it nearly as much as I rode the Rebel. And on top of that, I had a bunch of mechanical issues with it regularly that prevented me from riding.
I guess what I'm getting at is you probably still considered yourself a brand new rider when you got rid of it?
Yes. I didn't even consider myself a rider at all when I got rid of it because I had less than 500 miles in the seat.
Did you?
3 years.
The Rebel was brand new when you bought it?
The Rebel had 1 mile on it, yeah.
See, that's I think a lot of where I have differing opinions on when we talk about beginner bikes. I would never get a brand new anything as a beginner motorcycle. It just just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Like
I was looking for a used Rebel 500. And at the time when I was looking, and I was like, I'm getting a bike at the beginning of riding season to really learn, because I wasn't sure if I liked riding, because I hated the Vulcan that much. I was so uncomfortable with it. I never found out if I liked riding or liked the idea. And the Rebel, I did a lot of research looking at beginner bikes. I obviously didn't get really a chance to test ride many, but I ended up just going with the Rebel, getting it because I felt super comfortable on it. It felt very light, felt great sitting on it on the showroom floor. But part of the reason I went with new over used is when I was looking for used Rebel 500s from even 2017 when they first started doing that model. I could not find a used one for less than MSRP on a brand new one.
Weird.
Even completely stock. Because MSRP for a non-ABS 500 was like 6,300 something. The cheapest Rebel I found at the time was one with ABS for $6,250. And it had a scratch on the tank, and it needed a new rear tire because the person did burnouts, which was obvious looking at it.
That's fucking rad.
The next cheapest Rebel 500 I found was 3 months after I bought mine, and it was a 2017, and it had a lot of aftermarket on it. It had a Mustang Solo seat, which is a $500 seat, and it had hard Viking bags, which were like $250 to $300. So, and it was $4,235 is what the person was selling it for. Now, had that been around when I got the one I have, I would have got the used one instead.
Yeah.
But when I'm looking at a used bike for the same price as a new one, minus dealer fees and last checkout, I might as well get the new one and know what I'm getting and it not having an issue.
True. Can you guys hear me or no?
Yeah, we got you.
That's the same mentality I have, Aaron, where I did buy a used bike and I ended up paying an arm and a leg, to get it resurrected into a rideable bike. Because I'm not a mechanic. I'm a handyman by trade, but I know where to stop, and I know I'm not a mechanic or not there yet. So I had to pay guys to do this work on the concourse, and now I love that bike. I mean, for $7,000, I got a bike with hard bags, with room to stack stuff on. It'll go. It's got heated grips. It's got all kinds of bells and whistles that I probably couldn't have afforded on a new bike.
Right.
But when I bought my Z900 or even the Cafe before it, the Scrambler, I wanted new, I wanted warranty, I wanted to not have to worry about any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't really drop my bikes, knock on wood, but I dropped that Ducati like the second day I had it.
Mm-hmm.
And after I did that, everything was easy after that. Like I was in that category of people who've already dropped their bike and not people waiting to drop their bike.
And it made everything a lot easier because you didn't worry or stress about it. Right. I have a
No,
friend.
I had a. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I had a scratch on. I ended up scratching the exhaust pipe and a mirror, and that was it. And I was like, yeah, I can live with that. And I don't even think it affected when I traded that in for the present bike, my Cowie. I don't even think they cared. They were like, yeah, this is what we're going to give you for trading.
Yeah. So I have a friend who doesn't ride, and he never talked about riding until one day I showed up at his house to play Magic the Gathering on my bike. And then that started a whole year's worth of conversations. And now he's actively trying to talk his wife into letting him go take the MSF course, which would lead to him getting a bike. And she finally said to him, if we're going to have this talk, you need to clean out the garage because you can't get a bike unless we have a place to store it. And he's got a large 1-car garage that you could easily put like a car and 2 bikes in, but it is full of crap. And I told him, I'm like, when he told me that, I'm like, look, I will give you an entire day of my time to come down there and just pull everything out of the garage and light it on fire for you. If it means you getting to take the MSF course and getting a bike. He is very picky. I keep telling him, look, your first bike needs to just be a cheap bike that you can potentially ruin because you're going to drop it. You might wreck it. You're going to beat the hell out of it while you're learning. And it's better to get something cheap that runs okay to learn on than to go and buy a brand new bike, drop it, ruin it because you're going to hate yourself for it. And he is so stuck in a certain head space. He's like, well, I want my first bike to look like a cafe bike.
Cafe.
So he's looking at all of these like CBs that have already been stripped down, completely rebuilt from the ground up, and then modified to be a cafe, and they're like 4, 5, 6 grand. I'm like, dude, let's look for like a used CB from the 80s or something that's around 2,500 at max. Get something that runs, doesn't really need work, maybe a little bit of carb work, because that's not that expensive. A lot of people know how to do that. YouTube can show you how to do it if you want to wrench on it yourself. Get something like that, ride it for a year, and then from there, get yourself something different. And we've had a lot of back and forth, and he's like, well, whatever bike I get, I'm going to get. It's like, I don't want to have to get another bike after that. I'm like, okay, maybe consider going up a little bit higher than a 650 then. And we started looking at Royal Enfields, we started looking at the Moto Guzzi's, because he was very adamant about having a cafe look.
Well, it set him up. My buddies set me up. They had been watching Struthers Brothers website for weeks, months, waiting for a cafe bike to come along, because I was in the same headspace, it sounds like, as your buddy. I was like, I want one of these cafe racers.
Yeah.
I didn't know how god-awful uncomfortable they were until I opened.
Oh, well.
Great story. And rich.
So
that sucks.
So while we're on this intermission, let me show you this. This is actually what I paid.
Just make sure we can see your social security number and your mother's maiden name.
So MSRP $99.99, 10,349 with ABS. I did not get. So I want a Canadian, because the Canadians are cheap and their money's worthless.
No, it would have been higher.
Yeah, that bike actually. Okay. Yeah, that bike actually sold for $99.99. So I'm not sure how.
Weird. You got a deal. You got a steal. I think.
That was the MSRP. Yeah, that was just the MSRP. I think the problem is there's a lot of shady Harley dealers that go, oh, $99.99? No, that's without the dealer's prep, tax, title, license, incentive. And somebody actually was going over that a while back. So literally everything on there, you don't have to pay. You can literally tell them, I don't want to pay that. And they have to take it off or not sell it.
Really?
The only thing, that prep cost, that's on them. You don't have to get that from them. You can get it from anybody else. You don't have to get that from them. Yeah, I think that's a Canadian price.
Nope, it's the U.S. website.
That is insane. That is insane, and I don't know how. So how can my bike, being bigger and having a bigger engine and having more amenities on it, sell less than a bike with what's 80, a third less? It's insane.
Is it a factory second?
Oh, wait, is that a special paint job?
Oh yeah, that wasn't black, so there's an extra like $2,000, right?
Well, that's one of the selling prices. Even on
fucking Harley.
So even the 21s, if you got, the only cool thing about the 883s, and I think they did this to sell them, is they put cool paint jobs on them. Yeah. The 1200s, you can get them in black, and black. The only were the colors of the stripes. You had the red, white, and blue stripes, the green stripes, and then you had the dental floss stripes. But the 883s, you had them in red, they were orange, they were army green, they had these special burnt sienna colors and stuff. So yeah, that's what you click on, the one that says how much is the 883 worth. That'll probably be like $20. I'll probably bring it down to about 4,000. Yeah, that's insane. They can actually, and the reason they can probably do that now that is the only real Sportster they're selling now. That's probably why it's cost that much.
They don't even sell it anymore.
Oh, it's a 22. They've got to still be the 2022 one.
They're not making the 2020. They're not making it for 23.
Yeah,
they're not making it for 23. They're still making it. They're going to say this is the last Sportster jacked up. Because when I bought mine, the 883s were all about $7,500, $77,000 to $7,500, and that was with the freaky paint jobs. The most expensive one they had there was $9,000, and it had ABS, baggage. It had, it was maxed out, and it had the burnt sienna paint job.
All right, Bleak, you got cut off. I'm assuming your internet dropped or something. But where were we at in your story? Because it was about to get good.
Well, yeah, I bought. My buddy set me up. Hold on, check that out. For $15,999, you can get a fully decked out Aprilia 210 V4 with touring bags and all.
I think they look cool, but like, where's the nearest Aprilia dealer?
Yeah, who knows?
Hang on, go back to that question where somebody was asking if an Aprilia is a touring car.
What?
Throw that slide back up. Throw that slide back up.
Slide. Easy, sir.
Oh God, I just went back to freaking kindergarten.
My everyday job. Put that slide back up.
Oh, PowerPoints and stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Constantly, yeah.
Oh. Can we go back 3 slides, please? No.
Back it up. I want to see that guy's head bleed again.
Right here.
Is it a touring car?
Slightly raised bars, you know.
The tattoo artist I go to has an Aprilia. He says it's the best bike he's ever been on.
Oh yeah, they're great bikes, but it's like hipster Ducati. Like it's even less dealer networked than Ducati.
It is the fastest touring motorcycle. We know that. We saw the boys from Ravzilla race them. And
for the same price as one of those, though, you could get like the
KTM.
A KTM or the Moto Guzzi
extra $1,500 just for being the last fucking Evo Sportster.
That is
insane.
That sounds like a Harley thing to do.
Oh, you're fucking right. It is.
Yeah. I mean, I told you with the lowrider STs, at least at Faro North and East, the MSRP with the 2023 is like 22,000 and some change. Add $700 for the white paint job that I want, and then the markups and everything out the door price is
that pisses me off.
$26,665.
Just go buy a fucking El Diablo then.
No,
I don't care for red.
El Diablo for that cheap.
No,
that's the MSRP. 26 is the MSRP.
Selling.
I know. So it's 30 out the door.
Some of you might not be able to build. Billy might be able to remember this, but when the V-Rod first came out, they were selling them for $25,000. Within a year, they were selling them for $10,000 because they couldn't get them off the floor.
If they would have started at $10,000, they probably would have had a hit, and probably there'd be flooded the fucking market with them.
Even if they started at 15, they'd still be selling them.
That would be all decked out and be so insanely overpriced for that time that nobody could touch them. You know, if you heard somebody bought one, it was the owner of a large company who had money to burn. It wasn't your buddy down the road. It wasn't no union guys.
Yeah.
Ford just came out with a car, and I can't remember which one it was, where they set the price from the factory that the dealers couldn't raise the prices.
Yeah, that was the Ford or the Thunderbolt or something, that electric Ford truck.
Oh, the Ford Lightning.
Yeah.
Because they were raising the prices so ridiculously that Ford had to come out and say no dealer will sell higher than this price. Because they were just ridiculous.
If you get reported for doing so, they won't send you new model year vehicles. They'll send you like base model vehicles, and you're not going to get one of the big names. You're not going to get any.
You'll get Pintos for the rest of your career.
You're going to get a bunch of little Fiestas.
Ford's also in the middle of starting to close its dealer network and just be like Tesla, direct from factory.
And I think GM is going to try to do that too. They're going to get rid of the network and say that all dealerships, and that's what the way it was back in. You know, if you had an independently owned dealer, that was because it was a used car dealer. And Ford actually ran all the dealerships, and so did Chevy. Now it's like anybody can buy out the chain. Harley is actually selling the chain now because the Harley dealer 2 years ago, Harley sold the dealership here, sold it to Power Sports Network. Saying the same, the girl in Canada, Red Ryder. She was saying some Ferrari and Porsche dealer bought the Harley dealer up there and is taking it over. So I'll have her on next week, and y'all can ask questions. Please do.
That speaks to the affordability of a Harley big time, huh?
Yeah.
Come down to Ron Tonkin, Harley Davidson, Porsche, Ferrari. We'll hook you up. Come get your beginner bike.
Yeah, that's just the way they're going to start doing it. I mean,
Well, they did that for a long time too. They did that for a long time, and then they bought all the dealers back, and now they're selling them again.
Yeah, and I think if you want, I don't know, if I owned a company and I wanted to keep the product, within price, affordable, and consistently reliable, I'd have to keep the dealership under my own wing, or do a franchise where I'd say you can, but you're going to sell them under our guidance, but because it's their name on the line. Power Sports Plus isn't going to be on the line when somebody has a hard time with Harley Davidson. It's going to be Harley Davidson. If somebody sells a bike for $25,000 instead of $20,000, what good is it going to do to complain to Harley Davidson because Power Sports Plus set the price? But it's going to be Harley that's going to get their name smeared all over the internet. So I think it's just a very dangerous game. I
think they should just give them to us for free. The greedy fucks.
Everyone gets a free motorcycle.
I'm an authorized tester. I should get everything free. Do they know who I am? I have 500 subscribers.
Easy.
You don't know who I am?
Give people ideas. They'll start selling subscriptions to fucking motorcycles.
Just like they do cars.
Zero already did that, where it wasn't a subscription, but the original Zeros, and the reason people sort of shat all over them was the bike came with heated grips, but you had to pay $650 to the dealer to have them unlocked. Sort of the similar thing Tesla did when they first rolled out. The bike came with a larger battery capacity than it would give you. You had to pay $650 to get it unlocked. So by the time you did all the unlockables, the price went from 21, which is insane for a little dirt bike sized e-bike, to 27 for all your unlockables. And then people threw enough stink that they said, okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to bring the price up to 24, and we'll give you it with all the unlocks already unlocked. But we're going to take that base price up a bit.
You haven't reached the correct riding level to unlock these features.
That shit should be.
You have to win 3 more races.
So you're saying
races.
That they build the machine. It has a maximum capability that, it's fine, right? And then they drop that down with some software.
Yeah.
And then charge you to get it back. That's what the game really is. It should be fucking illegal.
Well, Tesla does that with everything. They do it with the heated seats. They do it with the navigation. They do
it's
it with
just corporate fucking greed.
Yeah. Everything is already in the car, but you have to pay for the subscription to use what's in the car.
Yeah. It's not like, a gas engine automobile where they make them and they have to hit a certain emission standards and everything, so your car is a little gutless, and then you want your car to be better, so you have to go buy aftermarket parts and do this. The shit's already there. They're just not including it because they're fucking greedy. I hate that kind of shit.
Yeah.
Well, if you couldn't tell.
No, they're bricking you from it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. KTM did do this. So Bruiser in the chat, he was like, I think KTM did this. And initially I was like, I don't think they did that. But then I remembered they have done this. And they did it for sure on the 1290. So I only know this because, again, my dad has one. The features that they pay, I don't know, it's got a paywall, I guess is what you would call that, is in order to use their infotainment system to put up nav, you have to use their app. But I think there's a cost to using the app. Like you have to get a subscription service. So it's like you have to unlock through paying to get, so you'd have your nav on the infotainment. So the way around that is you just mount your phone on the bars, but then the bike comes installed with a quick shifter. But again, there's a software to unlock it. So I think it's pretty expensive too, like $600 or $700. So again, having those like software locks on features that are already on the bike.
That's such horse shit. That should just be illegal. It costs them nothing to include it.
About
Nothing.
The same thing about Sirius XM. It's already in the cars. It's already on the motorcycles. It's already on everything.
I think that's different when it's a subscription service and you know that going into it, right?
But you actually have to buy. You have to buy that XM radio. It should come with a radio.
The radio, just the radio. Yeah, but you can get them for dirt cheap.
Manufacturers charge you extra to have the XM radio in the vehicle.
Yeah, it's $22 a month.
And then it's $22 a month.
Yeah, that's the only way I can get my NASCAR radio, and it's bullshit.
Wait.
Mob
Wow.
You're saying you're getting charged from two separate entities monthly to get
No. When you buy, like for my Rebel, when I bought the Rebel, it had the charge because it had XM satellite radio. So to have the radio in the truck, it was like $100 and something, I think.
You drive a Ram Rebel?
Yeah.
All right, no comment.
Does it play?
Carry on.
When you honk the horn?
I see you.
Not yet. But then, like Bleak said, to actually activate it and use the radio, you have to pay $22 a month.
To the provider.
Yes.
Sirius XM. Well, that's no different than
RAM because you have it, and then you have to pay.
Well, you pay RAM for the hardware,
right?
And then you're done. You have the hardware now,
right?
But you buy that hardware knowing that you have to pay for a subscription to utilize it, right?
And you don't have any access.
So that's to me is a bit of a different scenario. I still think everything's fucking way too expensive because people are greedy, but it just seems
Game Boy Advance
radio.
Does look like a Game Boy, huh?
Let me.
Yeah, exactly. Game Boy Advance SP.
Yes, break your phone.
I
in front
had
of us.
one in elementary school.
What was the movie with it wasn't Charlie, it was Ewan McGregor, where they had to pay for happiness, and as long as you kept paying, you could be happy, and then you could live longer.
I think that's Train Spotting.
No,
I think that's actual life.
I saw a movie like that where everyone had like a clock on their wrist as long as it didn't run.
Yes.
That was in
That had JT in it.
Yeah,
Justin Timberlake.
I actually loved that movie, as bad as it was.
That ain't no lie.
It's good.
But yeah, everything comes down to a subscription.
Yeah,
I got Spotify, and Spotify's $5 a month, and I get everything. I can make my own list. That's why once I got Spotify, I was like, Sirius seems so stupid now.
Yeah,
satellite
radios are relevant in this day.
Yeah, I just don't pay for that kind of shit.
I treat it.
For $5 a month, I can make my own playlists, and I can play whatever I want, find anything I want. And on XM Radio, it's like the same 10 songs over and over.
Well, I think for what Bleak's talking about, if there's things that you're into, that there's channels that cover, and typically that'd be sports stuff like, NASCAR, baseball, whatever, those kind of radio programs, satellite programs, I could see if you're really into that shit, then $22 a month, whatever. If you're doing it for music, there's just way better, way cheaper, and freer things to do.
I'm surprised, though, they don't keep playing the same 10 games over and over again, because that's what they do with everything else.
Well, so I treat it much more like I do. I don't have like cable TV. We have cable internet, but I do everything through streaming.
Mm-hmm.
And when I don't have a show to watch on a particular streaming network, I cancel it, and then when they bring the new season of it out, whatever it is I'm watching, I pay for it again, and then I cancel it after that.
I did that with Game of Thrones and HBO.
Yeah,
I watched the whole season and then cancel it.
See, I always wait for the freebie week, right?
Yeah.
That's what we used to. Now we have like everything, but before we wanted to pay for everything, it was like, oh man, it's free HBO week, so we would just binge every fucking show they had.
When the
Tape
last
everything,
season of
put it
Game
on
of Thrones
VHS.
came out, I got the free 7-day trial or a 3-day trial, whatever it was, and I didn't sleep, and I watched every single episode in that free trial span, and then immediately canceled it because
Well, it's like right now, if fucking AT&T didn't provide what is it, HBO Max for free, I wouldn't have it.
Yeah, my buddy, because of his phone, he got Hulu for free, so he shared that with me.
Okay,
T-Mobile.
correction. I would have HBO Max right now, just because The Last of Us is on. there.
Last of Us, yeah.
And then as
I-
soon as it's over,
There's
I'm
a
canceling
ton
it.
of good stuff on HBO. to be fair.
I'm debating HBO just because of The Last of Us. I
It's worth it.
I'll share
love the
mine with you.
games.
You guys are pretty nerdy, so maybe some of you might be into this. If you get HBO Max, they have like all the DC content. So like,
Because the
I don't know why, but one of my guilty pleasures is the stupid DC cartoon movies. You know, the
so
Justice
good.
League movies and shit.
There's so
Batman
And
Killing Joke.
you know, there's like so much of that on there. Yeah, that's my nerd stuff.
So before HBO had that, DC had their own streaming service, and I was subscribed to that because they had all of their old cartoons, they had all of their animated movies, they had some of their live action stuff. But then you also had access to like all of their old and some of their modern comics.
Yeah.
So I was using it to read comics, and one day I tried to log in, and it's just like, nope. Tried to log in, nope. I was like, why isn't this working? I did a quick Google. It's like, oh, they were getting such poor results that they sold out to HBO. It's like, fuck, because it was a cheap subscription. It was like
Toonami did
$4 or
the same
$5
thing on
a month.
Amazon. You had Toonami for
Yeah.
free on Amazon, and then they sold it, and then it was a subscription.
Yeah,
Crunchyroll on Netflix, and you get almost all the same shows.
you get a lot of the overlap. Well, with Netflix now, I haven't seen an update in a while, but they were saying they were going to do one of two things with people who were sharing their account with others who didn't live with them. Is you're either going to do an upcharge for every additional person that's not on your IP address, or they were going to just flat out block your account. And I
Yeah,
haven't-
Netflix is trying to crack down on that stuff now.
Yeah, if you share it, $2 a month to share it. You know, that's what I do with Hulu. I mean, not Hulu, but
It was going to be
Spotify.
like it was going to be per IP address that accesses it. So like I have it. It's my Netflix, but I share it with several people, including
What
family,
if you
like
use
my mom.
NordVPN?
And see, I'm old enough. I remember life before all this fancy lights and shit. And I'm like, threaten me with cutting my service off. I'll go outside.
There's other shit to do.
I got a motorcycle.
I'll be way more productive if you cut me
As long
off.
as I can
Probably
stay
save a
able
lot
to
of money
fix my
too.
shit, yeah.
Well, that and the thing is like, if it's on one streaming service, wait a few months and it will end up on another streaming service. With the
No, not everything.
with the exception of specific exclusives, like Netflix has The Witcher, and HBO has like Game of Thrones. But you can
And
still
Last
get
of Us.
and The Last of Us. But you can still get.
They have
digital
everything
downloads.
ever made by HBO.
Yeah,
And then some.
but there are shows and stuff that overlap across multiple platforms. So I'm sure you could find another with a show you wanted to watch. Or if anything, you want to watch it that bad, you can still buy the entire season of stuff on Blu-ray or DVD.
I was gonna say my mom has like a huge library of DVDs. If we have an apocalypse, I'm fine.
Yeah,
I miss the old DVD Netflix days.
Oh,
oh yeah, before it was
Like,
God,
go
I
to
know.
Blockbuster.
Actually, we had the when Blockbuster did their competing service.
The blue box.
Well, yeah, so they'd send you the DVD in the mail like Netflix does.
They still
But
do
instead
that.
of having to, you could mail it back and get the next one in your queue, just like Netflix, or you could take it to a Blockbuster and turn it in there and get a free movie rental.
Yeah,
So,
Netflix sent 'em out
yeah,
these little
it was like the
plastic
greatest thing
sleeves.
ever.
Half the time, living where we were, you would get, and they wouldn't charge you for it, but you get the little plastic manila sleeve, and the disc would be broken, and you report it as broken or
I
scratched.
never had that
You didn't have to
problem.
pay for it. Oh, it was always. They didn't have those little cool plastic cases back then. They had like the little manila, like silky. Looking
Yeah, it was like a white, yeah,
Yeah. But they're always broken or
kind
scratched
of a
up.
plastic, papery, plastic, like Tyvek almost sleeve.
Yeah, it was like
the
Tyvek's.
Tyvek
Yeah,
sleeve.
it was like Tyvek.
I guess maybe just people that handle the mail in Oregon are more considerate. That's probably what happened.
They're high and they drive slower.
Yeah. Yes.
Not in Texas and not in St. Louis. They're like, throw it at your door. Catch it if you can. Good luck.
Right.
Sorry if your dog eats it.
That's how my wife and I binge watched Lost. Like, you remember that show Lost?
I
You guys ever?
watched it.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember my mom was
another
like,
one
So when that was new on TV and the first few seasons came out, I would watch the commercials and go, "That looks like the stupidest shit I have ever seen. Like, that just looks dumb." And we were super bored after my daughter was born, and I was home with my wife, and we used that Blockbuster service. I said, "All right, let's give Lost a try," and we fucking binge watched it by doing that. We'd watch the first DVD, and then we'd take it down to Blockbuster and trade it in for the second DVD, and then get the third DVD in the mail. And it was we were pioneers of binge watching, I believe.
when I was a kid in my tiny, non-existent hometown, there was like a mom and pop movie rental place that had a bunch of shit you would never have heard of.
Yeah, behind the fucking beaded door, behind the beaded curtains.
Not
Pop
like
got
that.
the good shit at their store.
Not like that, but it's like a bi-weekly thing. My mom would take me, my brother, or me and my sister. It was always me because I was the youngest and baby of the family, so I always had my way. We would go and we'd pick out like 2 movies, and those would be VHS. Take them home. We put them in the living room VHS player because we only had the one, and then that would be family movie night. It would be 2 movies back to back. And then I remember I was a very upset person when that movie rental place closed down because that was it. There was no more of that unless we had a little extra spending money, and my mom would get a DVD, or not a DVD, a VHS for us to watch. But then she had the habit of picking movies that had adult scenes in them.
Nice.
That I was
Austin
not supposed
Powers.
to see. No, she never picked a movie like that. I watched it.
Dang it, I love watching Austin Powers on VHS. That was great.
But there were some like like action movies. Almost every action movie has a very interesting adult scene in it.
If they're from the 80s and 90s, they do.
Yeah.
This is a Showtime
And-
after hours presentation.
Right.
I remember when True Lies
Yeah.
came out.
Review this movie.
Man, it's you're taking me back to the blurry cable days, man.
Yep. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching the movie, just sitting in the
can
middle
make out
of
a
the living
nipple.
room floor.
Skinamax.
Something would start to happen. I wouldn't know what's going on because I'm just a dumb
Team America
3-year-old.
World Police.
And then my mom would say, "Aaron, don't watch." So instinctually, I'd be like, "Why? Why don't I watch this?" And she would have to run and just like put her hands over my face. But
Poor baby.
I remember VHS.
Now 3-year-olds just look that shit up on their phones.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
What's wrong, Mom? What's wrong with this movie? The guy's fist isn't even in her. What's so wrong with this?
Nothing like
It's
that.
just one guy and one girl, and nobody threw ropes on her face.
Yeah,
This is
nothing like
tame.
Your 8-year-old ask you,
There's
"Do you know
only
what
one girl in
fisting
a
is?"
cup.
I saw this video. Hey, Abel, look around real quick. Look at all these bright and shiny faces.
Hmm.
And tell me which one of all these people have not been on my interview section yet.
It's loose juice.
No.
Come on, man.
Look in the mirror, nerd.
Dude, we did it today. Today, Abel.
Yeah.
Today
Yeah.
we had an interview.
Oh, we had a fun one today. It was fun. Good times.
Yeah.
Kind of interview.
I've liked all of my interviews.
What the fuck you want to interview me for? What do I have to say?
I want to ask you
lot.
about shit.
Dude.
Yeah, we can talk about pooping. I do like talk about pooping.
Yeah, how about how it took you 2 weeks before you
Okay,
finally had
Yeah.
Everybody hasn't figured it out yet. Abel was in a very
very
terrible
serious
motorcycle
No, I-
accident.
Yeah.
I think this would be a
Just-
very good interview.
It's traumatic.
It'd be really good. Unless you don't want to relive it, I mean that's fine.
No, I can. Oh, we could do something. We can set something up. To be honest with you, like I was telling the guys before we got on tonight, I've just kind of been absent from almost all social media lately. I haven't been watching anything on YouTube. It's just kind of gets a little depressing because I want to be doing stuff, not watching stuff. So when I,
You want me
when
to
I watch
raise
these
that?
videos, I'm like, this is the shit I want to be doing right now instead of sitting here with a
I have a really
fucking
big back seat
boot
that
on my
comes-
ankle and in a bunch of pain, So it just gets kind of depressing. So
Oh yeah.
and I was dealing with
Careful
other
with my
stuff
bed.
with the dog dying and stuff, and I just
Oh,
kind of just haven't been in a good headspace lately.
Yeah. Sorry, dude. On your own time. I do think though, as I get better at asking questions and better at my timing and better at just doing these things, I think the interviews are getting better.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll set it up for when I'm home convalescing from my ankle surgery.
When's that gonna be?
Let's see. I gotta go to the doctor again. Coming up, end of this week, I believe, and hopefully my blood pressure is better and my EKG isn't wonky. I'm on a medicine that kind of helps some light anxiety issues I have at night, and no, that too, but that's not the medicine in question. The stuff clonidine, right? And apparently it's meant to be a blood pressure medication. It gets prescribed for anxiety in some people, and so that's what I was taking it for. And the doctor's like, dude, I can't send this EKG to your surgeon. She'll freak out. So, wait a couple weeks, off of clonidine and come back and do it. So, I'm pretty certain it'll be normal. And then hopefully within a week or two after that, I can be in surgery.
Well,
Want to get this over with.
The faster you can get into that, the faster you can get better.
Yeah, it's just it's disappointing, all the rehab work I did, on my ankle and everything. That start from scratch. So I don't know. Like I said, I watched an entire summer go by from my hospital rooms,
Wow.
and it's like all I could think about was writing and wanting to do the shit that I like to do, and being, as fucked up as I am right now from these injuries and not being able to kind of fully dive into it kind of makes me avoid just, casually watching stuff.
So is your ankle the only thing you're still having problems with the ribs?
No,
Okay.
From like a surgical standpoint, yeah.
Parental guidance.
I'm still in a lot of pain. My shoulder hurts, my neck hurts, my back hurts, my ribs hurt, but it's just the pain of getting better, I guess. There's gonna be pain. You don't smash half your body and not be in a lot of pain
something.
for a long time, So the experts keep telling me, just keep doing what you're doing and you will eventually feel better. But I think a lot of it's your brain's going to normalize to being, tolerant of certain pain. It sucks, but
Pretty metal, dude.
whatever.
Fuck
It
yeah.
is fucking metal.
Metal.
It's a lot of metal.
But I mean,
Yeah, I'm going to have more metal in me now. So
So this go around, if you have constipation issues, we're gonna get the play-by-play on the.
I can definitely keep like a, at least a daily journal going on Instagram or
Captain's
something.
log. We want the captain's log.
Maybe every time I go sit down, I'll just live stream or something from taking
There
a
we
shit.
He'll
Hey,
be more
guys,
prepared
surgery
next
here.
time
I'm on
because he
my
won't eat the
third
day
shit
before the
today.
surgery, and
Yeah, I'm gonna just eat nothing but red meat and no roughage leading up
red
to
meat
it.
and crackers.
Make sure you get
just
I
extra
found
protein.
something for Bruiser real quick. It didn't take me but like 3 seconds on the internet.
Team America World.
Gonna butt and suck on my balls.
I'll tell you one thing.
It's really immature.
Love it.
If you want to give
Yeah,
yourself
you
the
suck
worst
on my
smelling
balls.
farts and craps, protein shakes.
Uh,
I had a buddy I would meet up with. He would drink a protein shake every day for breakfast, and then another
Yeah, I
one
bet
when
he
got
would.
home from the gym. And he came over and spent a weekend with me because we were just doing fuck all.
just farting.
Yeah, I
I-
bet they were fuck all.
This sounds like a gay porno
This is
start,
where
just so you know.
Found his love of eating ass.
The last gay porno I watched was just like this.
No, he gassed me out of my own house. I couldn't fucking be in my house when he let one rip. It
Well,
was
now,
so bad.
was it soy
I know
or was
people
it
who like
vegetable
do a
protein?
red meat diet. I don't know. I don't know. But I've been in houses with people who just ate like straight red meat diets, and it was never that bad.
Bro, you'd love my place.
But never an entire
I'm
house.
Korean, so I eat a lot of kimchi, and it can make for some interesting farts.
Oh, yeah.
90s beef
fucking
protein was big.
destroying.
That made some
Oh.
good farts. That you could buy beef
Hey, let me jump in real quick.
liver.
Hey, stop the fart talk. Blake wants to get back on track here. Knock it off.
I
up, Blake?
don't care what
I'm
you
just
guys
teasing.
chat about. I want to catch up with Aaron real quick, and then I'm probably gonna take off. It's been a long week here. My buddies set me up. They had been watching the Struthers Brothers website for a while. I told them I wanted a cafe bike. I kind of told them my price range, and then they're like demanding of me one day, "Hey, you got to come to the bike shop with us. Hey, you got to come. You got just come with us. You know, you got to come." And finally, I was like, "All right, will you guys leave me the fuck alone if I come with you? How about that?" And I get there and I gravitate right over to this Ducati Cafe Racer.
Mhm.
And I didn't even know the price tag, but I immediately had a bond with it. I didn't even know that I could have. And things felt alluring. And this salesman's like, "Yeah, I can get you into it for real cheap." And I'm just like, "Yes,
Yes.
let's
Where's the
do
deal?
that." You know?
It doesn't even need to be cheap. Just where do I sign?
That's
Take my
Right.
money.
That's
Well,
what I'm
and then-
trying to do with my buddy is just talk him into like, hey, we're gonna hang out one day, and then I kidnap him and take him to Throttle Cup.
Yeah. Watch until they have a bike he's gonna like drool over and get him on that bike. And then
Pretty much
probably
everything
much
at
like
Throttle Cup.
myself, he'll figure out along the way, maybe cafe bikes are fun for around town.
Maybe I
they're
shouldn't
not-
have got this Hayabusa for my first
Yeah.
bike.
No, and talking with him, we had a lot of those very extensive talks about what different styles of bikes, riders, triangles, and the type of riding they are good and bad for. And every bike that I've shown him, just like in marketplace and stuff online, he's like, "Oh, I really like that." I'm like, "Okay, this is a good about a half-hour ride. Past that, you're going to be in pain." And he already has like back issues and stuff. So I'm telling him, like, "Dude, I know you're not the biggest fan of how they look, but like, if you're going to ride more than a half hour a day, you are going to want a cruiser." Like, if
What?
you just want
Oh, I thought you were gonna say a sport touring bike.
no
Sport touring
like,
is what I was thinking. Yeah.
Sport
like a
touring would
small
be
cruiser.
perfect.
Like
Let's see
now,
what the
if you're,
weather's gonna be for tomorrow.
if you're gonna just like bar hop, cafes are fine.
No, I feel like I graduated in my taste profile to where now Rainey, in my opinion, rides the pinnacle of motorcycle technology with that BMW, man. And I think they've got the best of both like sport and tourer combined in that platform. I've had the chance to see 3 of them pretty ladies in a row. I saw Rainey's, Two Wheel Terrors, and
in Greases.
Everyday
Everyday
Grease.
Grease.
All in a row, and hearing the pipes going at the same. Oh man, it was like listening to angels singing or something. I don't know, but I realized sort of then that I was on the wrong bike.
And it was that. No, that Connie's a good bike. But yeah, you were.
Yeah, I
there
love
on the
my
other
Connie.
one. Yeah, you were there.
Yeah, I
the
was
other
there
one
on my
that weekend.
Z900, the cafe
Yeah.
bike
Yeah.
that I rode across the damn country.
The
Oh,
good thing about
God.
that BMW is if
Oh,
you do
man.
use it as a bar hopper, it'll get you. All you do is just crank it and put it in gear, and it'll drive you home. You don't have to. Yeah.
Pretty much.
So for getting drunk on a bike, not that I can
Self-driving technology, not
Yeah. But yeah, as far as trying to a cafe bike is a horrible idea to get you home after you've been drinking.
you'll have a better. I mean, you'll have
You need a
fun.
Bavarian bike for that.
Yeah, when it runs on beer, it's already used to all the alcohol.
Right? Yeah. Hop on the beamer. I'll take you home.
If you can drink ram's piss, you can drink anything.
Oh, your Gam Gam's a whore.
All right.
My Gam
On
Gam is a
that, I think it's time to wrap this one up for the week, guys.
All right.
All right, you guys come back. Don't
Bye.
forget tomorrow
Blake.
that I've got 7.
Yeah.
Oh
Sid.
yeah, we'll be all
that'll be
over
so.
that one for Sid.
So 7 will be there at 5 o'clock.
Come quiet. Come quiet.
No, she'll be under. I've been doing very good with these. They have not gotten out of control, so that's actually really good.
Well,
I'm gonna watch a few, I guess, and then I'll decide whether or not I'll be on. Whether it's big time enough for me.
Josh keeps saying he's going to do it, but
this
he's so
fucking
busy right
guy.
now.
Josh also keeps saying he's going to come on Weirdos Assemble, but
Dude,
the trick is to get.
I don't plan on him
because then
ever showing
Josh
up
will
until
do it
after.
with her.
Yeah, about a month after Forgotten Angels, he'll probably wind down enough to actually be and do something like that. I think the only reason he did
Agreed.
the one out in California is because he was there. He was already wound down because he had driven for like 2 days straight almost. So he was actually in a place where he could sit down and like kind of decompress. So what are you gonna do? You're already 3,000 miles from home. You might as well sit down and do a interview.
yep. I mean, we'll probably have him on the live
will.
stream at
We'll get him.
Forgotten Angels.
So with
So,
that
I
live
know
stream,
you talk to him. I talk to him. Like, we'll get him on.
That live stream is gonna be fucking
are we gonna
wild.
get Fish to come down? Be there.
Oh
be our
yeah, I'm
producer IRL?
dragging Fish by the fucking gills. Don't worry about him.
So this is October because not a lot of time to get that happening by March.
Oh no, I'm gonna drag him by his fucking gills in March.
Oh,
I
so
might
we're
Prepare
gonna
for
go,
a detour to Jersey,
Oh.
and then we're gonna take Sid, and we're all gonna drag him by the gills.
So
We're just gonna
At the camp out?
hook a kite to one of our fucking bikes.
for
We'll
the
fly
camp
him down.
out,
we'll fly him down.
Steve is sending 20 pairs of boots, 20 pairs of gloves, and we're going to do a raffle drawing for more gloves and more boots. So if you guys want to help me
Nice.
out, pass
That's
those
awesome.
out to the kids.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah. Let me know what I can do to help out.
That's so
Are you
cool.
gonna
Throw
maybe
boots
we
at
can take
people?
This offline, but like logistically, how are you moving that much
The
stuff?
boot shooter.
I'm gonna assume it's
alright.
gonna get delivered there.
But we
ahead
can
of
talk
time.
about this offline.
We'll talk about
Yeah.
Yep.
let-
All right.
We'll talk. We'll
Everybody
see
be
everyone
good.
next week. Have
All right.
a great work week.
Peace.
These
Love y'all.
weirdos are fucking out.
Be good.